Thank you very much for inviting us to do some presentation of the main results we contributed to provide during the life of Umersi. My presentation will be focused on mainly three aspects. Some words about the importance, the place of energy efficiency policies within the food and drink industry action and policies, the role of our organization and what we did in terms of validation strategy and what we built for Umersi, and some results from the latest deliverable we provided at the end of this project, as some general conclusion. So, do you know that European food and drink industry is the first manufacturing sector in Europe? Is the first one, followed by mechanical and chemical. It's the first sector in terms of number of employees, and on a total of 286,000 of companies, the large majority, 99%, are made by SMEs. So a highly diversified sector. Because Umersi, because energy efficiency. Do you know, maybe no or yes, that all the food and drink industry companies, but also the association, the horizontal bodies like the Federation, has a specific task force during these years on the sustainable food chain development. So energy efficiency is, on your right, is one of these four main pillars of importance. And as representatives of food and industry sectors, we may say that during the last years, all the policies about sustainability and environmental sustainability dealt with energy efficiency to promote and to increase energy efficiency culture amongst our members. This is just a background to focus the positioning for the food and drink industry about this topic. The industry has environmental impacts relatively low in terms of energy consumption and GHG emission, but at the same time, the energy is one of the main inputs both in the food and processing lines, but also for the agricultural raw materials production. The food companies, are suffering higher cost of domestic energy bills than those of major competitors, also outside Europe. Also in the food and drink industry, a good exploitation of the potential of the energy saving combines from one side the environmental targets, but also the economic sustainability under the same mission of reducing the impact in the food chain. So during the last years, there were some main fields of action to improve the energy efficiency via the diffusion of best available technologies, through the participation in national energy efficiency schemes, to evaluate the potential of cogeneration, the tree generation and polygeneration, moving to refrigeration technologies less harmful to the ozone, and to have a diversification of the energy mix. Who we are? We are SPES. I am sure everybody knows SPES, but SPES is an European Economic Interest Group, spread European Safety EEG. We are made up of 12 food and drink federations all over Europe. So we are grouping as official members more than 34,000 of companies inside our umbrella organization. The rationale behind SPES was to promote the participation of our members in the research innovation action, because now it's clear there is Horizon 2020 and a lot of opportunities. But 15, 20 years ago, our companies were not so close to this kind of programs. Their attitudes was not so familiar with this kind of opportunities. So a long history and a very important job to promote the dissemination also of the research results, in close collaboration also with the national technology platform Food for Life in each country. Our network, our family from France, Italy, my federation, from Czech Republic, Austria, Spain, Portugal, Turkey, Greece and Slovenia. All together we were third parties working inside UMERSI. This is the second part of the presentation. During the second year we were leading the validation of the good practices. The validation was one of the three ways for the knowledge transfer from the enablers to the stakeholders. SPES, we are the leader of this task. We organized 5 national workshops from June 2017 to September in Portugal, Czech Republic, Turkey, France and Spain, involving the corresponding federation. The validation was made up of the presentation of the project, first of all, the information summarized via the good practice fact sheets provided from the other colleagues, and the core part of the validation was the evaluation of these good practices in order to assess the technical consistency, but using the same format and the same set of criteria for the assessment. Why the validation? It was not easy job to organize this activity for the project because of different reasons. But the most important reason was the exact meaning of validation, because the meaning is different. So a precondition for the project was to adapt the meaning of validation to the project work plan, because a technical validation in the industry begins from a starting point in a certain time, then you have to analyze, making evidence of the key performance indicators, then you have to introduce the changes, and finally, at another time, subsequent time, you have to analyze and extract the results in order to do some conclusion. In the case of UMERSI, in the case of the validation, it was so not possible, of course. So we did not do a validation in real condition, but we moved to virtual conditions, so we made some assumption and we simulated scenarios based on the good practices fact sheet as a basic document for the discussion. How the validation was carried out? We have selected, first of all, the participant, the profile of the participant, so the experts. They were entrepreneurs, our members, energy managers, working both in the company or external consultants, energy saving companies, public body or private agency dealing with energy efficiency. Also banking operators. We have seen before the importance of the financial solution for the investment of energy efficiency. All these experts were invited and appointed as our experts for the validation. The first phase was to get some endorsement, some engagement from these experts. So we have provided them with prior with this information, the evaluation grid and the content of the good practices fact sheets, in order to arrive to the meeting well prepared. The second phase was the concrete running of the national workshop for the validation. Each federation guided the expert in a meeting, in a physical meeting. The good practices fact sheet have been discussed, and the evaluation, each evaluation grid was filled in and collected. After the meeting, there was also a follow-up, just to include, if any additional integration after the meeting. Then all the 5 federations sent to me, to Federalimentare, their minutes, their comments, and we started to collect and analyze all the responses. This is to finalize the main conclusion and the related deliverable official for the project. Conclusion and recommendation. This is very rapidly the plan from the selection of experts and the specific time for each activity. Just to highlight that before the finalization of the conclusion, we organize also another moment, let's say a European conference open also to external experts in Rimini during Key Energy Ecomondo International Fair in November. Common method and homogeneous results. It was necessary to choose a common way to access and to report main conclusion from the discussion. So we circulate an evaluation grid divided into 4 main chapters for the technology, the feasibility, sustainability, and the regulatory framework. For each of the chapters, we proposed several criteria of discussion in order to be appreciated from low to moderate, high, or no answer, and to explain why. This evaluation grid was also part of a document with general question and final remarks. Some results. The provenance of the stakeholder, because the key also is who has contributed to this validation. As you can see with me, 24 were coming from public sector as policymakers, but also from the technical centers. There were the 14% also from company and energy operators, private consultant, and ESCOs. So I think various participation from the different stakeholders. This is the graphic of the focus of the good practices validated. It just to this part of the official deliverable, which will be made public after the finalization. And as you can see, there were some good practices which were chosen by the majority, by all the countries. So were discussed in each the 5 countries. Some good practices were not assessed, and others were chosen only in some countries. This was just a picture of the progress of the analysis for each good practices. We have extracted all the relevant comments, the remarks, and on the basis of this work, we were able to formulate some conclusion in a detailed manner. So there are some rankings, and also in the narrative manner. So if we would like just to have some hints, specific hints, if you would like to have, say, the top 3 of the good practices amongst the 25 identified from the projects, whose attitude is more is the exportability to other sector. There is the use of combined heat and power generation, the use of efficient refrigeration system, and heat recovery. Then there are a top 3 for the good practices which were judged more exportable to SMEs. They were the use of efficient boilers, the use of efficient baking ovens, and installation of efficient servoelectric multi-machine. Of course, it is based on the validation carried out in 5 countries. It is an ambitious job, but we cannot pretend it is the Bible. It was interesting also to see the impact on the impact of a certain technology on the product quality. And for this kind of criteria, the first was the installation of efficient servoelectric molding machine revamping of the fat fractioning system, and the steam blanchers optimization. Or the 5 good practices with the higher incidence of intervention costs. And you can read with me this list. But during it was also interesting to highlight some, let's say, different opinions, some not discrepancy, but other comments out of the validation grids. For example, in certain cases, the stakeholder had a different indication on the payback time with respect to the payback inserted in the good practices. So we kept note of this and put in the report. It was commented for certain good practices, even if they are of course good, to high investment costs as a weak point. In addition, there was also the indication, if any, when applicable, the existence of national tax credit or in a negative way, some restrictive measures at national level could be like an obstacle. And in certain cases, there was also some proposal to indicate the new good practices not described in the available fact sheets. In any case, if we would like to have a final ranking of the most appreciated good practices in terms of comments received and feedback, general feedback, they were the use of biomass boilers, the use of waste for heat generation, and the use of efficient boilers. In terms of general conclusion from the activity in a consolidated way, energy about these good practices, main findings were to highlight that energy-related production costs are going to be reduced, the competitiveness and profitability improved, the risk exposure to energy prices and the security of supply better managed, GHG emission reduced. Also, it was interesting to highlight the relation to the environmental footprint and the public image of the company was improved, could be improved in a cost-effective way from the introduction of these good practices. And then there is other specific comments about heat, chill, freeze, and lighting. The last chapter of the evaluation grid was dedicated to the framework, regulatory framework conditions, and it was commented that there are some needs, also some gaps, like the need to have a stable regulatory framework, also a medium-long period strategy of incentives, and also a structural co-funding from R&D activity, but we learned from the presentation of EASME representative the effort did in this way. Also the need of more integration of the environmental sustainability policies with those for energy purpose, efficiency and renewables, and also to facilitate access to credit with ad hoc solution. In terms of culture, in terms of obstacles and challenge for the future, we have also extracted some obstacles to approach in a good manner to energy efficiency from the company point of view. The lack of knowledge of the opportunities and already existing tools. So if we think to the EIP platform from UMercy, we are going to the right direction to promote this kind of existing tools. The failure of perception of the energy efficiency as a priority, the distrust with respect to the plurality of the technical options, and the resistance to do investment where there is no an immediate perception of return. So, going into this direction to overcome the challenge, we can improve and we encourage the drawing of guidelines for the evaluation and monitoring of the results, the benefits achieved, to promote more and more energy audits where they are not mandatory, and to spread in general the knowledge of energy efficiency in terms of information and exchange of experience. Point of view. On the last slide, thank you for your attention, and we are at disposal for any question after.